Hi everyone and welcome to another speed build. This time we're at the Goth house and it's not really a speed build, it's actually a speed renovation. I've played the scripted events for the Goth family, so I'm ready to, well, next time I come back to this house, I'm ready to start playing in it. And so I wanted it to be renovated. Yeah, I'm just here explaining what I'm doing and the thought process behind it. This renovation took a really long time. It was about 6 hours in total. So it is a very long speed build, and it wasn't even a longer real time build. So I did spend a long time on this. I'm pretty pleased with the end result, and of course you're going to see that at the very end. There was just a lot of finicky things that needed to be done. You can see here I'm having trouble with placing two fireplaces back to back. Just a lot of stuff like that where I had to kind of go out of the game and do some research and figure out how to get things to work the way I wanted them to. But nonetheless, one of the things you'll notice with my Maxis renovations is that I do tend to keep them quite similar to their original looks. I feel like they're quite iconic, so I don't really want to change them up too much to the point where they look unrecognizable. With the Goths, I did decide to give them a proper mansard roof, but the mansard roof you see here is not the final product. I didn't particularly like how it made doing it with the mansard roof pieces as they are made the attic huge, and it means that their cute little rooftop terrace would be massive, and I didn't really like that. So what you're seeing here is not going to be the final product. It's kind of just what I ended up placing. But then I decided I wanted to do something a little more grand for the mansard roof, and I knew it was going to take me a long time. So I kind of just gave up on the exterior initially and moved on to the interior. So yeah, you can pretty much discard everything you're seeing here, but I'm pretty much showing it because you can see the journey as it was in progress. Just recoloring the exterior windows, but yeah, I can say quite confidently that they will be changing. um, but really, that is the journey of building in The Sims. I mean, you can start off with one color scheme or idea in mind, and then as you actually start progressing with the build or the renovation, your ideas change. And yeah, so um, that's basically what you're seeing. I quite like the store. The store is a 3-to-2 conversion. It's from the Jazz store set, I believe. Goes quite nice with that wood color, but it also goes with the final swatch that I end up choosing for the windows. Now moving on to the interior, the entryway here, going with some darker woods and giving this house more of a gothic vibe, but not a goth vibe, but gothic, like that kind of Victorian gothic style, which I quite like, and I've been doing a lot of in my Sims 3 um, playthrough. Now with the floors here, I've gone with a dark kind of parquet, which is going to show up in a minute. I'm just flicking around through the swatches. And yeah, because I've cleaned up my custom content and kind of I'm reverting back to more or less Max's Match custom content. One of the reasons why this build took me, or this renovation took me so long, was because I have a whole bunch of new custom content that I'm not used to working with, and so I just don't know where to find anything. I don't know what colors really go that well together, and it's all very much a huge experiment right now. But you know, I'm happy with, in general, I'm happy with how things came together. As I play through the house, I might make changes here and there, but yeah, I think the end result is pretty much what I'm going to stick with for the rest of the Pleasantview playthrough. So continuing with the entryway here, and I have changed the door to have a swatch that matches the walls, and then now I've changed the arches to um, ones that match the door and the swatches that match the walls. So everything is kind of, well, the doors and the arches match the walls, which is generally what I like. That staircase I changed, switched out from the old one because the Bon Voyage staircase, I have some swatches that go with the wood tones a bit better, or the wood tones that I used here a bit better. Now just figuring out what to do with the entryway, and it is a very big entryway. I find it quite hard to decorate considering where things are placed, but it does come together in the end. I keep their piano, of course, and I keep it in the Maxis swatch, which is a bit of a surprise. I wasn't expecting to do that, but I felt like it looked, pretty decent. Again, I think I've said before, I don't particularly like for all of my wood swatches to match. I do like a little bit of mismatch here and there. And I've moved their couch into the entryway and the chair as well, but that actually moves back into the living room towards the end. But yeah, I'm just trying to fill out this entryway so it doesn't look so bare. And it's kind of a bit of a struggle with me because I like things to look a little more filled out, but then I wanted this this entryway to look a little more formal. And I realized that I'd started to clutter it up a bit too much. So you can see when I start to put some clutter in and then I start taking it out and moving it about because, yeah, I wanted this part of the house to look very formal. Going with those curtains and then putting a painting above the couch. And that'll be nice because if someone's actually playing the piano, then Sims can actually sit down and watch them play it. But no one in this house likes music and dance, so no one's going to be using the piano. I have autonomy turned off for musical instruments if their one true hobby is not music. So pretty much their piano is purely decorative at the moment. But yeah, I mean, it looks nice. And I mean, if one of the other Goth descendants likes music and dance, then hey, they've got a piano to play with. Now with, just continuing to fill out the entryway, putting in some lamps on this end table sideboard, although I don't stick with a lamp there. But yeah, this is when I started to clutter it up and, it was looking quite bare and I didn't know what to put on it. So I was cycling through the catalog, just trying to figure out what to put on the sideboard. And then I chose some items. And in the end, I felt like, yeah, it was starting to look a bit too casual. So that's what it looks like now, but it does change a bit later on. Going back to a side table for beside the couch here. And I believe I chose this one initially. Or do I take it out and switch it out? I think I might switch it out. I'm a bit unsure about the build order here. No, yes, I try switching it out because I wasn't quite happy with the swatches. So I wanted something a little more woody, but then I couldn't really, the side tables ended up being too big. So I end up reverting back to that little side table that I initially chose. And to be honest, I was quite happy with the swatch in the end. It didn't bother me too much. Putting in a coat rack and now fiddling around with some more. Oh no, I go back to that end table. There you go, all done. Back to the sideboard here because again it was looking a bit too casual. Just trying to figure out what do I actually want on this without it looking too full and cluttered but not too bare. So I went with I don't know if it's a vase or an urn. I mean, there's so many urns in this game, it's ridiculous, but I think it's an urn. Putting the urn back in the entryway there where it was before, although I accidentally bought a new one instead of using the one that they originally had, so that's a bit of a mistake. But moving on from that, I was just trying to figure out what to put next to it. In the end, I stuck with those two end tables, putting in some lights, and now I'm going back to this sideboard because, yeah, I put a phone on it and then I was like, oh, it looks too bare, so will I put something else on it? Tried with a plant and I couldn't quite find a plant that I liked, and this sideboard is quite finicky, so I had to use a bunch of OMSPs to actually get things to go where I wanted them to go. I chose this plant here initially, but then when I put it up next to the urn, it looked a little, I just didn't like the way it placed. So, but I did like that plant. So what I ended up doing was using that plant to put next to the ginormous urn right here, which I quite like in the end. Now moving on to the dining room and the kitchen as well. I kind of work on those relatively simultaneously. I keep their dining and chairs the same. I don't even recolor them, which is quite funny. I don't know, just everything was kind of working well in this room. I end up liking the end product. So, yeah, choosing the wall colorings here and this kind of incident where I'm deleting swatches that were being picked up by that statue, swatches of another custom content item. Don't do that. What I did just there and delete them from the catalog. Actually, you should actually go and investigate what the issue is. Turns out when I deleted those swatches, they were from another custom content item, so I actually had to go and re-download them. So if that ever happens to you, you recolor an item and then you see it's picking up recolors of another object, just go and investigate what it is before you kind of delete anything and see whether it's something that you can work with or you can actually fix. In this case, I just have to work with it, but it's no biggie. Right, now I've finished the floors and the wall colorings that are for the kitchen and the dining room, and now I'm just kind of filling it out. I put in a china cabinet in the dining room. I go with a 4:2 plant in the dining room to start with, but I do change that out because, again, like I'm kind of cleaning out my 4:2 content, so that plant will be going into the abyss with the rest of my 4:2 content. Not being deleted, it's out of my downloads folder right now. And putting in some paintings. I put in the that little nectar bar as well, which looks really nice. There's some recolors from Pineapple Forest Sims. Putting a vase on the dining table. And overall, yeah, this room just comes together really nicely. I quite like it's almost autumnal. I've found that I really do like autumnal colors and color schemes, and I think that's just why I like the dining room so much. The kitchen doesn't really change that much in terms of placement of items, and yeah, it's still, the layout stays the same. I just kind of go through and recolor the counters, add a few bits and pieces to make it look a little more lived in, not so bare like it was before. And of course, I put in some upper cabinets and give them a different sink, an actual kitchen sink and not a bathroom sink this time. And of course, a range hood for above the oven. And I switch out the oven to a black one too, because I think the black one looks quite nice in here, matches the espresso machine. I was going to go for a black dishwasher as well, but then it was just looking a little too black, so I just went with the stainless steel one. Going in with some sheer curtain things, and putting the bin in the corner. And of course, there was a massive open space there, so I decided to fill that out just with a table and a rug underneath it. So looking for the perfect swatch here. And I think, yes, just settling on that kind of olive green colored rug. And then after this, oh no, I didn't. I went to a brown rug. I think I'm going to go back to the olive green one, to be honest. I feel like that looked nicer. Anyway, I shouldn't really be talking down my builds like this. I should be 100% confident in all the decisions that I've made. But anyway, now I'm going in with the usual kitchen clutter. And this always takes forever because my clutter is spread out all through the catalog. And one of my projects is to make some collection folders with all the clutter that I use in the game. And I'm thinking of doing collection folders for, specific rooms. So for example, kitchen clutter, bathroom clutter, bedroom clutter, hallway clutter, all the types of clutters that you can think of, because one of the things that takes the longest is in this game is searching for things. Thank goodness there's a mod for in The Sims 3 that allows you to search the catalog now. In The Sims 4 you can search the catalog, but in The Sims 2 you can't. So I feel like collection files or folders are a good way to kind of navigate that. So yeah, with the clutter it always takes me a long time, but I got it done in the end. Found everything that I felt I needed to put in here. I don't know what I'm putting on that last one though. I think I just had it out and then I was like, okay, I have to put something on it. But yeah, I cut away from that, so I don't. Oh no, hang on. No. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, recoloring this picture because I kept that one in the kitchen, and recoloring the last OMSP. Moving on to the living room and picking out the carpet. Initially, I go for this super busy brown and kind of gold, I wouldn't even say call it gold, kind of brown and beige patterned carpet. It does look too busy. I feel like it would look nice with some neutral walls and some neutral furniture, but because I chose a couch with a quite a detailed or a like a striped pattern on it, you'll see it in a minute. It just ended up looking too busy, and it almost looked like, you know, looking into this living room, you were looking through a kaleidoscope. So you can see the couch almost blends in with the carpet. So I had to go in and change that because it was just ridiculous. I liked the couch covering, but the carpet was a bit too much, especially with the walls as well. I felt like there was way too much going on. So I switched that out. Bringing in a matching living chair, and I have two living chairs to start with, but then I get rid of one because the room starts to look a little too cluttered. Uh, and I mean, I do like cluttered looks here and there, but this is, I feel like this is quite supposed to be like a mansion in a way, even though it's quite small for a mansion. Um, I didn't want it to be, you know, too cluttered. I wanted it to feel a little more on the grand scale. So yeah, and I put in the sideboard behind the couch, and then things were just looking, yeah, a bit too cramped. So I took out the extra end table and chair there. So going in with some clutter for the living room, and I'm choosing this nice plant here. That's a really nice pot, but it didn't quite fit the vibe, so I changed it to one that is more similar to the pots that I chose for the entryway. Moving that into the center, and then putting in a nice red lamp there, and then trying to figure out what else to put on the sideboard, because yeah, it was looking, even though I've just talked about things looking too cluttered and cramped, at the moment it was looking a little too empty, especially on that sideboard. So I come back to that in a minute. I'm just putting some curtains on the walls, and then cluttering up the sideboard. I go with this little statue of a horse. And moving on to the mantelpiece, I was going to choose these griffins, but then I remembered I put them in the Beaker's house, so I didn't want to put them in the Goth house as well. That felt a bit too repetitive to me, so I went with I think it's another urn, and then a picture above the fireplace, or a painting. And that is of a recolor of the Bella Squared picture, and it's the Goth family, or the Goth senior family from The Sims 1, so Cornelia and Gunther in The Sims 1, which is quite a little nostalgic touch there. Going on to this entryway bathroom, and the flooring stays the same, but I just changed the walls, although I don't stick with what I choose here initially. I end up going with the wood paneling that is in the entryway, but this is what you can see now. Putting in a sink, or a better sink, and a mirror, and recoloring that so it looks a bit nicer, and then putting in some just random bits of clutter here and there. Toilet brush and toilet paper, which are essential for my bathrooms pretty much, and a bin as well. Now with the upstairs, this initially I tried to rearrange the floor plan so that windows looked a bit better, you know, they were placed a bit better. I was trying to have the windows kind of line up from the exterior, but when I did that, they didn't really look that good on the interior. For example, the hallway window would be off center, and I didn't like that. So I did a lot of fiddling around. In the end, I made the hallway a tiny bit bigger by encroaching into Cassandra's room. And that was purely so that the hallway window wasn't in a corner. I wanted it to be a little bit more centered. So you may have seen at the beginning of the video that I started to rearrange the second story quite drastically, but I ended up reverting back to the more or less the original layout, because even then I couldn't get it to work with the window alignment, and you know, the fireplaces being hard up against a wall. I did want there to be a space between the wall and a fireplace, and yeah, it just wasn't working. So I pretty much reverted back to their original floor plan, just with the hallway being slightly bigger. Now moving on to Cassandra's room and recoloring some objects in her room just to kind of go with the wall paneling a bit better. I have to switch out a bookcase there. And yeah, with her bed, I pretty much keep that the same. I was having a bit of an issue with the beds, to be honest, because I used move objects to move them out the way while the Sims were using them, and then they kind of bugged out, so I had to rebuy them. But yeah, her bed pretty much stays the same, but you know, just recoloring some things here and there. Choosing some artwork for her room, and in this playthrough, I want Cassandra to pursue writing. I believe her hobby, I'm not sure what her one true hobby is to start with, but if it's not film and literature, I'm going to change it to film and literature because I do want her to be a writer in this playthrough. So I'm kind of giving her some clutter and bedroom furniture to reflect that. So some book piles around the place. She does get a little desk, and I will get the mod where Sims can actually write without a computer. Mortimer has the only computer in the house, and you know that's kind of his office. And I want Cassandra to have her own little personal workspace. So I will get that mod where they can just write books without the need for a computer. Putting in some curtains, and just making sure that the colors kind of all complement each other. Again, with some book clutter just placed randomly in her room. I get rid of that other clutter actually. I thought the books that I chose there were looking a little bit better. I had trouble with the rug. I wasn't very creative with the rugs in this build, unfortunately. They very much all end up being the same color. I just wasn't on my rug game. I feel like I could have been a bit more creative with the colors, but they work nonetheless. I'm not overly unhappy with how they turned out. Um, the desk swatch that I've chosen here, I change it to the lighter pink one, but I think I'm going to revert back to this one here. I feel like it looks better with the rest of the color swatches that I go with. So yeah, I change it to pink, and then I think later on I'm going to, once I actually start playing the build, I'm going to change it back to the tone that you can see here. But yeah, I was having trouble with the rug. Like I just, one of the things that I'm trying to do essentially with this build is have things, like I wanted the bedrooms to be a little more personal and not so formal like the rest of the house, especially the ground floor is going to be very formal, but the bedrooms, particularly Cassandra and Alexander's room, I wanted them to be a little more personal. So the furniture was a little mismatched, still high quality, but not as I guess expensive looking. But yeah, sticking with the kind of casual look for the bedrooms. Cassandra's bedspread doesn't. It's not really that exciting. It's a very kind of beige and yellow room, and yeah, but it kind of was the vibe that I was going for. I wasn't going for anything too like over the top or anything like that. If anything, I'm going to save the more over the top styles for Malcolm the Landgrab. Um, Whereas the Goths, I want them to be a little more casual. And here I'm kind of struggling a bit, and this is more or less a symptom of just having a lot of new custom content in my game and having removed a lot of custom content that I previously used. It took me a while to kind of clutter up and decide what, you know, color schemes and all that I wanted to do. So it did actually take me a while to do Cassandra's room and actually decide how I wanted it to look, but it got there in the end. And then I move on to Alex's room. So again, he's very much going to have a casual style like Cassandra, but just some changing of some wood swatches, like with the toy box here. Although I don't stick with that toy box swatch, I go with a black one, but I'm trying to get the rest of his wood swatches to kind of complement each other and have it look, yeah, like Cassandra's a bit more casual, putting in some curtains as well. And the wall covering, I changed that because I feel like there was a little too much blue in there. Like I wanted there to be some blue, but yeah, just the blue that was there that I initially chose, that was a bit too much. And yeah, again with the toy box, changing that to black. Giving him a desk for him to do his homework. And once I've chosen that, I start cluttering up his room. So yeah, getting him a desk chair first, and then getting all the clutter out. I do go with some more child-friendly clutter, so toys and books and all that kind of stuff. But Alex's hobby is nature, so when he gets older, I will probably redecorate his room to be a bit more nature focused. I did put a couple of nature things in, like the butterflies on the wall and all that, but yeah, at the moment it is more reflective of just a kid's room, really. Um, and yeah, just placing some more clutter around the place, putting in his smashed up dollhouse back in his room. Cassandra destroyed that after Don left her at the altar. She was in a bad mood, and so she took it out on Alex's dollhouse. So it's all going to be fun and games when he discovers that. Giving him a chair, and now moving on to Mortimer's room. Now, of course, Mortimer's favourite colour is red, and Bella is, quite famously known for being associated with red. So I did want to go with some red tones in this bedroom. The walls are a little bit green right now, but I do switch that out because I felt like it was clashing a little bit with the red. It doesn't look terrible, and it could work in some cases, but I didn't quite like how it started to look with, the more red that I brought into this room, the green, I wasn't quite feeling it. But I did want the room to still look like Bella did live in here at some stage, so I put the vanity table in. You can see I switched out the walls there, and I wanted to put a couch at the end of the bed, but I decided that instead of getting a new one, I brought the original couch up into Mortimer's room and recolored it, and then in the entryway, I switched out the couch for a couple of living chairs. I'm just kind of rearranging things now to fit them in. But yeah, putting those in there, recoloring them so that they are red again, like the original couch was. And I feel like this just looks a little bit more entryway appropriate, having a couple of chairs in an entryway rather than a full-on couch. Yeah, I just felt like that looked better. Back up to Mortimer's room, and now I'm giving him a rug and going with some ready tones. And in the end, I really like how this room came together. I feel like all the tones kind of look quite good together. Just filling up some gaps with a plant and recoloring the pot there, and then going with a sideboard for this piece of wall here. With the clutter again, looking for some stuff to kind of fill out the surfaces, and with the sideboard, I take out the photo frame that I put on the piano. That was only temporary. I wasn't planning on leaving them on the piano, but I bring them up to Mortimer's room, and then looking for various bits and pieces to put on the sideboard, filling it up with some books and putting in some light switches and a painting. So yeah, I'm very happy with how this room turned out in the end. And lastly, I am putting in a screen. So that corner wasn't so empty, and the other corner I put in a washing basket. And then I thought, oh, you know what? If Mortimer's getting a washing basket, I may as well put one in Cassandra and Alex's room as well. So there we go. Next up is Mortimer's little study, and this isn't really exciting. It's just adding a few bits and pieces, kind of rearranging things and recoloring things. So changing out the bookshelf, giving him a nicer chair for his computer, and putting in some curtains. Recoloring the bookshelf so it matches the other tones a bit better, and also recoloring the chair as well. Now I'm putting some clutter up on the desk. Just the standard, getting out the OMSPs, giving him a nice little lamp, putting that into place, and now looking for a plant to put on the desk, and I go with that plant there, which is quite nice and tall, and a pile of books. Also putting a rug in here too, to make it look a little more cozy. Lastly, putting in a picture of some flowers, and then moving on to the hallway here. Sometimes I struggle with furnishing hallways. With this one here, I knew that I wanted to put a grandfather clock in there. I mean, I feel like a grandfather clock in the Goth house is very much a staple, but I'm not very creative when it comes to decorating hallways. So my staple, my go-to is pretty much lights, chairs, plants, and pictures, and of course light switches, as you can see here. Putting in a picture up against this wall, although that does move because these stairs are currently in the wrong place. I realized that a little bit later on, but where they are right now means that Sims can't actually get into the part of the attic where that overlooks the front or overlooks the road. So they've actually, I accidentally blocked that off. So I go back and fix that, but that was just a symptom of me kind of doing the initial trying to rearrange the floor plan. So I did move the stairs, but I ended up changing them back to their original spot. Going in with the bathrooms, choosing some kind of brownie tiles and some walls to complement them. But here I was just kind of deciding what tile to use. But I ended up using a tile that matches the walls, and I feel like that looks quite nice. Initially, I go with a full row of counters, but I realized that I wanted to use a cabinet mirror for the bathroom, the upstairs bathrooms, so that they, Sims have some gameplay, brushing teeth, etc. But I didn't quite look how the sink was kind of off center from the window. And so I end up rearranging those counters a bit. Well, I take most of them out so that the sink is only on one counter, and I center that between the window and the wall, and then I add the cabinet mirror, although I changed the cabinet mirror out to a more fancy looking one. Putting in an end table in the corner there just to kind of make it look a little more complete. Recoloring it there, putting in a plant, and putting in some lights next to the mirror so Sims can actually see what they're doing when they're using the mirror. And just other bits and pieces of clutter. What am I putting here? Some soap, some towels, and a toothbrush, a rug next to the bath there. Oh, not that rug, I'm deciding which rug to use, but I go with the better bath rug. And putting that clutter next to the sink, recoloring the towels, and then of course putting in the toilet paper, and then some coverings for the windows there. So some sheer mesh kind of curtains and some blinds underneath, and then putting like a little pile of towels on the end table, and a trash can or bin as well. Now for the other bathroom, Alex and Cassandra's bathroom. I got a bit lazy here. I put in that shower and I didn't even bother recoloring it because in my mind when I placed it, I was thinking that I was going to go and get the backless shower, but I forgot to do it. So it just stays as it is, but ultimately it looks fine. I don't have any issues with it. So it just stays as it is for now. Now with the bathroom counters here, I actually didn't realize, but they match the tile of the counters matches the tile in the kitchen. I wasn't intending to do that, but I guess I just liked that tile swatch so much that I used it in the bathroom. So it pretty much stays. Now I just put in a rug and I'm going and putting in some bits of clutter around Alex and Cassandra's bathroom as well. So giving them some toothbrushes, some towels, and all that towel rack there. And what else do I put in there? I definitely give them some toothbrushes. There we go. A pile of clothes and like a set of soap, and I think that's a comb as well. So yeah, nice little bits of clutter. Recoloring those OMSPs and putting in some lights too. And also can't forget the light switches. At this point I'd actually forgotten to put them in quite a few places around the house, so I had to go and backtrack and put them in, and then I just kind of moved things about where I had been experimenting with layouts and floor plans and stuff like that. particularly with those windows. And moving I changed, initially I stuck with the original chairs that were in the living room, but then I changed them out to chairs that were a bit nicer and went with the rest of the furniture. And now I'm switching out the rug in the living room. I wasn't quite feeling the original rug, so I went with a Persian rug instead. Now, moving on to the exterior. So the mansard roof has completely changed, and I wanted to go with a more tiered mansard roof this time, and this was very tricky to put together. It took me a while to figure out how I was actually going to do it because I wanted to preserve their little rooftop terrace, but I also didn't want a huge attic. So to get around that, I decided to do a tiered mansard roof, basically where there is the larger mansard roof pieces around the terrace, and then I go with some smaller mansard pieces on the outer edge of the roof. I had to play around with constrained floor elevation a lot because I wanted to put a little trim fence around the mansard, and I needed a wall to be behind the mansard pieces, so I had to play with constrained floor elevation a lot, and that was giving me a lot of grief, especially with the floor bumping back up. Now, to fill in the gap between the lower and upper mansard pieces, I went with the Buggy Boo's niche cube, and went with a dark brick color that kind of complemented the rest of the color scheme of the house. So putting this all in, and this took forever. One thing I need to do with these cubes though is make it so that they are visible in hood view, because at the moment in hood view the house looks like it has a huge hole around the mansard roof, so I'll need to go and fix that. But yeah, just filling in the gaps here, and then it pretty much looks like there is a flat surface between the two layers of mansard. And yeah, trimming it off with some fence. Trimming it off, I don't even know if that's a saying, but putting in some fencing around the edge of the mansard so that it looks a little more finished. I have to say this part of the build is probably what took me the longest, because I had to do a lot of research and fiddling around with, trying to figure out how I would actually get the overall look that I wanted. Now back to recoloring windows and doors. While I wanted this house to maintain its look and still be recognizable as, 165 Sim Lane, the Goth house, I feel like when the developers were building this house, they were going with a certain style in mind. This house looks really similar to the Norman Bates house in Psycho. I don't know if that's what the developers were going for. I'll put up a picture so you can see, but this house definitely resembles the house in Psycho. So I was kind of going with that kind of look for the exterior, particularly with the color scheme and the front of the house. So to kind of emulate that style a little bit more, the Norman Bates Psycho style, I decided to extend the front porch and include some cover on it. So bringing down those mansard pieces, and that little open area, I just put in a platform and lined it with some wrought iron fence. The porch now, I'm just going in with some fence that has some upper trim on it and completing that off with some pieces of upper trim. And now the back was looking very bare, so I decided to kind of give them a little porch out back, because essentially this house is pretty much a box with a bump out on the front. And I have to admit that my creativity was kind of drying up at this point in the build, and the only thing I could think of to do was to put a back porch on. It's not the most exciting back porch, but it does the job and it makes the house look a little more interesting. It doesn't stay the way it is. I do kind of add some more detail to it, some plants and all that. But yeah, it's just a very simple porch there. I did think about putting a door onto the porch, and kind of turning it into a balcony. Sorry, on the second level, I thought about putting a door there, but I just decided against it in the end. I might do that in the future. Yeah, like I said, at this point, my creativity was very much in peril. So now I'm working on some trim for the exterior of the house to make it look a little more complete, and doing that all around the edge of the house as well, around the foundation. And yeah, now I'm changing out the stone on the roof, on the front porch, and moving on to the road pieces, of course. And this is where I'm moving on to the landscaping and the front and backyards. So getting rid of the wrought iron fence that completely enclosed their lot and replacing the back part with a hedge fence. I put in a driveway for them to have a car. I thought about putting in a garage, but I felt like that would have detracted from the look of the house. I wanted the focus to be on the house and not, be distracted by a garage on the side. So I just decided to give them an open driveway, put in the two trees. I quite like the placement of the trees, but of course, because I put in a driveway, I had to move the trees back. Um, but yeah, now just putting in a driveway covering there, or concrete or stone or whatever, and filling in the front yard with a nice brick fence, making sure the posts of the fence are as evenly spaced as they can be. That is a huge pet peeve of mine. I've got to have evenly spaced posts. There can be no weird uneven gaps, so taking care of that right now. Now rearranging the mailbox and the trash can. I quite like the mailbox, how it sticks out of that fence post there. It looks quite nice. And now I'm going in with some terrain paint around the fence and everywhere to give it a little more detail, give the lot a little more detail. And now I'm putting in some plants, so some hedges there at the front and behind the driveway, and now putting in some ferns. I really like these ferns. They are 4:2 conversions. There are some 4:2 conversions that I am going to keep because I feel like some items are quite essential. And yeah, so these ferns are going to stay. The bushes around the front of the house there are little azaleas, although I don't keep the flowers. I recolor them to just be kind of plain green bushes there, which make it look nice and tidy. And the placement of those two trees, giving them some terrain paint underneath. And now moving on to their iconic wedding setting. Now I'm not going to get rid of this just yet because Mortimer's going to be getting married to Dina, so I do need to keep this, and because it's just, it's iconic, so I can't get rid of it. Now I'm revisiting the back porch and adding some more detail by placing some, what do you call it, some ivy around it so that it looks more detailed, and it goes all the way up the side of it and to the top of it. And now I'm actually going to start decorating the back porch. So it doesn't really have too much going on here. There's a chair and some potted plants. Both Mortimer and Alex's hobbies are nature, so I really wanted to reflect that with the amount of plants that they had on the porch here. So yeah, just putting in a ton of plants and looking through the catalog to find ones that look just right. But yeah, it's pretty much a nice little mix of flowers and all that kind of good stuff. Going in with some terrain paint underneath the house to add to that detail. And then in this kind of empty corner, I just put in some shrubs and a little not like a flower bed, it ends up being a grass bed. I get rid of the flowers in the end and just bring out the flowers and the shrubs instead. And yeah, so I feel like that looks nice and cozy. Now putting in a car for Mortimer and doing a little bit of work on the attic. I've kept some of their objects, and the ones that I didn't use and decided not to sell for whatever reason, I just put those up in the attic to make it look a little more full. I did decide to close off part of the attic, particularly the area that goes up to the terrace, because I didn't want the entire attic to be exposed to the elements. So yeah, that's been closed off. And now there shouldn't be any weather entering in through here. Just putting in a door and rearranging some of their odds and ends furniture. And now we move on to the before and after pictures. So here's the before, the house looking very vanilla, and after the renovation, the house looks very imposing now, which I quite like. Here's the rear of the house, very basic, and here's my changes. They're not too drastic, but yeah, I feel like it looks a little more interesting. The entryway, very orange and bare, and here it is now with the darker wood tones. Looking into the living room now, lots of red and green and maroon, and that's kind of been toned down a bit with a bit more tan and brown. And moving on to the dining room, here's the old dining room with a rotten plate of salad, and the new dining room looking very swish, if you don't mind me saying so. Here's the old bare kitchen and the new kitchen. So very much the same in terms of object placement, but just recolors and more clutter and all that. Here's Cassandra's old room and her new room. I did end up recoloring the fireplace. So yeah, there's Alex's old room, very purple, very bare, very boring, and here is his new, very casual, cozy bedroom. Here is Mortimer's old room with the open study area that's now been enclosed with some more red tones brought throughout the room, and the old hallway before we move on to the new hallway. So as we look over the remaining before and after pictures, I'm going to say thanks so much for watching this speed renovation. A lot of blood, sweat and tears went into this renovation, and I'm quite pleased with the outcome. I hope you enjoyed it too. My goodness, this voiceover has also been a bit of a challenge. 45 minutes of talking over a speed build is hard. But nonetheless, thanks so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you in another video very soon. Take care and goodbye.